Hello, my name is Tiara Sharma, and I am your host and producer of the show Restore Hearts TV. Today is going to be an educational episode, and we're going to talk about anxiety. Anxiety is one of the top major mental health challenges that people are having in the United States. And so I think it is an appropriate one for us to talk about. So let's get started. Anxiety. What are you worried about? No, I mean, really, what are you worried about? That's a reflection question. According to the American Psychological Association, anxiety is an emotion characterized by feelings of tension, worried thoughts, and physical changes like increased blood pressure. People with anxiety disorders usually have recurring intrusive thoughts or concerns. They may avoid certain situations out of worry. They may also have physical symptoms such as sweating, trembling, dizziness, or a rapid heartbeat. One of those things that is a hallmark of an anxiety disorder are recurring intrusive thoughts. So those are thoughts or concerns that are always in your mind. It's like you can't stop thinking about it. No matter what you do, no matter how many things you try to do to take your mind off of it, you're always having this thought. I call it the what if syndrome. That's how anxiety used to show up in my life. Well, what if this doesn't happen? Or what if this happens? Or what if that happens? I wanted to talk about anxiety versus fear. They are actually two different things. Anxiety is considered future oriented, a long acting response broadly focused on a diffuse threat. And so what that means is when someone is having the emotion of anxiety, they're usually thinking about something that hasn't happened yet. And that's why I call it the what if syndrome. What if this happens? Or what if that happens? Never-ending scenario that can happen in your mind. Because it's usually focused on the diffuse threat. That means that there's no immediate threat. Like there's no bear in the room. There's no cheetah in the room. Like these are things that are often imagined or things that could happen, but there's nothing around that actually says, hey, this is an immediate threat. But when it comes to fear, fear is an appropriate, present-oriented, and short-lived response to a clearly identifiable and specific threat. Hey, there's a bear in the room. There's a cheetah in the room. So this is fear. This is has to do more with a present, short-lived response to something that is an immediate threat to you. So I want to take this opportunity to invite you to join my Facebook community. It's called Restore Hearts TV with Tiara Sharma. And it is a community where we will talk about the different topics that we discuss on the TV show from week to week. And it's a safe place where we want to learn, we want to grow, we want to build that community of people who are looking to actively take ownership of our mental health wellness. Also, another group that I'm growing is called Mother's Mental Health Movement. It is also a group where we will talk about mental health issues, share our stories, support each other as women, but it is that safe place for women to come and talk about the different issues and challenges, mental health challenges that we have as women, so that we can be stable in our emotions and our mental health and stand up and be the women who we are called to be in our homes and our families and our communities. And so I am inviting you to join those two communities today. Anxiety is abnormal when it negatively impacts your normal daily activities such as work, school, hygiene practices, and interactions in relationships. When we're talking about normal daily activities, if you no longer want to go to work, no longer want to go to school, if you stop taking care of your hygiene, you stop brushing your teeth, you stop washing your face, you stop taking showers, and the anxiety has gotten so bad that you no longer want to hang out with your friends or family because it's become too much, then these are some red flags. These are some signs that you need to see someone. Do not delay. You need to see your doctor. You need to see a therapist. You need to talk to a trusted friend. This is where you need to take action and where intervention is needed. What does anxiety sound like? So I've actually put anxiety and fear. What do they sound like? I've heard these words used interchangeably. I just wanted to give you some examples of what they could sound like in real time when you're having a conversation or you're talking out loud. I'm afraid that I won't raise my children the right way. So why is this anxiety? Remember, we talked about anxiety being future-based. It's a future-based thought based on something that hasn't even happened yet. When we have our children, it's like, man, I want to raise my child the right way. You know, your child is 2 months old and you're thinking about, oh man, about when they're 15. Let's breathe. We have time. We have time. And so, but this is one of those thoughts that I've heard so many women and I've heard men also express this anxiety, which I think it can also fall in that category as a fear. You know, it's one of those natural emotions, I believe, that can come up. But then when it's a routine, repeated thing over and over and over again, it starts to fall in that category of anxiety. You're going to have many opportunities to learn and grow with your child. That's one of those things that where anxiety can start to creep in. What will happen if I lose my job? So I think this can fall in the fear and anxiety because, you know, some people, you may actually get a word from your supervisors, a word from the company that, hey, we're expecting to lay people off, which could cause an immediate fear. Like that's an immediate threat that is currently happening, you know, a threat to your income, a threat to your livelihood. So fear could definitely be appropriate for this example as well. Now, there's a lot of talk about recession. Traditionally, during recession, there would be a lot of companies laying employees off. And so even though your job hasn't said anything about laying their employees off, because you've heard that there is a recession coming, then you start to think over and over and over again, oh, what happens if I lose my job? What happens if I get fired? You know, this is how anxiety can creep in from that statement. So it may start like that. What if my spouse decides they don't want to be with me anymore? I actually think, you know, it can fall into both categories. Let's say a postpartum mom. You just had a baby. This is your first baby. And, you know, people are telling you, hey, the relationship changed, things change after you have a baby. But, you know, we don't know until after we actually do the thing, right? You know, maybe you're not talking as much to your spouse because you guys are busy. You're spending more time with the baby and, you know, the sleeping schedules are off. There's so many different things that comes after you have a baby, right? And so those emotions may come, that anxiety starts creeping in because things are not like they used to be. And, you know, maybe you haven't had that time to talk to your spouse about it, then you start getting this recurrent thought that, hey, maybe my spouse doesn't want to be with me anymore. Maybe they want to leave. You know, all kind of things can come up. So I think once we said that recurring thought about something that hasn't happened, something that hasn't even been spoken or talking about, but this is that recurring thought, that what if, the what if. What if the people at my new school like me? So, you know, this is, you could put school there, you could put job there. What if those people don't like me? This is one of those thoughts that if you seriously thinking that about yourself or about the new space that you're going into, and then you start to think about that over and over and over again, produce anxiety. And so let's move on to fear. Fear is an immediate threat focused on something that is short term. What if that stray dog walking down the street towards us bites me? You see how that sounds different than anxiety? Anxiety is very broad. Fear is very specific. I'm afraid I may have to go to the doctor because the cough I have is getting worse. So in this example, you actually have a cough and then you're afraid that the cough may be getting worse and you need a doctor. That is an example of fear. My boss just announced that they will be laying off employees at our company. I'm afraid I may be laid off. And I think we talked about that earlier on the anxiety side because those kind of go together. But yes, that is an immediate fear. What are some stressors that produce anxiety in children? And so I always go back to children because if you're an adult, then you've been a child. And so especially in this age where we're talking about childhood trauma and how those things affected us, a lot of us will need to go back and think about some of these things that have caused us to have stress as a child, some of those things that made us feel anxious as a child, because those will directly mirror what we're feeling as adults. We just haven't uncovered it. Sometimes when you just go back and you can pinpoint that thing, you can pinpoint where it came in, then that will help you in your adult life to be able to see how it's mirroring in you, how it's mirroring in your children, how it may be mirroring also in your spouse, those that you are in community with. And so it's always good to go back to the beginning. We have a stressor. These are some of the examples that I have seen. Telling your small children you're going to leave them if they do not hurry up. So the response is it causes fear and panic. You are your child's life source. You provide their food, you provide their shelter, you provide their love, you provide their support. This is a non-judgmental space. Our responses as adults is different. When we tell our small children that we're going to leave them if they don't hurry up, I used to do that because that's something that I've seen done. And the thought behind it is that, you want your children to stay focused on the task. If they need to put on their shoes, you want them to put on their shoes. If you want them to get their coat and put on their coat, to try to get them to, focus on the task. But what I saw in my son is that caused fear and panic in him. And that I wasn't even thinking about that part of it, because I'm his mom, right? I'm his mom. I'm the person who's taking care of him. And now I'm saying, hey, I'm going to leave you if you don't hurry up, thinking that that's going to be a motivating statement that helps him to, move along. But it's actually detrimental. And I saw that. And so I stopped doing that because I could see that it wasn't producing what I wanted it to produce. It was actually producing something very unhealthy in my child. I had to apologize and say, hey, I'm not going to leave you. I said that because I wanted you to focus on the task that you're doing so that we could leave. And so, maybe we need to adjust our time, give ourselves more time to get ready before we leave out of the door, or, maybe I just have to be a little bit more patient. So, those are some alternatives. So the next stressor, if you have a stressful home environment, so those could be food insecurity, constant arguments between parents, and then abuse in any form, whether it's verbal, emotional, physical. Those are all stressors that produce anxiety in children. That could produce a fear of abandonment, the fear of not having any food, the fear of, if you have parents constantly arguing, then that fear that maybe one parent is going to leave you, or maybe both parents are going to leave because, nobody likes each other. The space is so tense that the child always feels on edge. And then, of course, abuse of any form, that's stressful. To come home and to be in an environment where there's a threat of violence, or where there's actual violence going on, whether it's from the words you speak or from actually hitting or any type of physical abuse, then that is definitely going to produce stress that can lead to anxiety in children. And then also, this is one that I found out by experience, substituting TVs, tablets, video games for human interaction and connection with them. When I was working full time, the shifts at the hospital, the 12-hour shifts turned into 13, 14, sometimes 15 hours. And, when I would get back home and I would be off, I just didn't have the capacity to interact with them. So I'd turn on the babysitter TV or give the babysitter tablet to him while I would rest or cook some food, clean up a little bit. I found out very quickly that does not substitute for connection and interaction with my child, because even though he's entertained at the moment, he would still be needing my affection, needing my love, needing my attention. And I didn't understand that in the beginning, because I'm like, well, we're right here beside each other. You're good, I'm resting. But then at the end of the day, when, things start to pick back up and it's time for dinner, and, things are getting back into action, but that time spent hasn't been there, then I saw that in my child, that was producing like a lot of, if we're not careful, we would call it unruly behavior. But he was trying to tell me something like, hey, I need your attention. I need your love. I need your affection. I need us to play. These are things we have to just be aware of. Sometimes we're just not aware of them, especially if you work long hours, if you work a lot, or you have a lot of other things going on, then your mind may be focused on those things and not the fact that your child still needs that connection and interaction. And so you may be confused because you might actually be in the space with your child, but if you're not actually spending time together, intimate time together, quality time together, then your child may still feel that, hey, you're not paying attention to them. Hey, we don't get any time together. And then you may start seeing anxiety, because when we think of anxiety, we may not be thinking about these things. So I am looking for 40 youth between the ages of 12 and 17 for a youth empowerment takeover. And so I do have a registration form. The information is there, a job form. I'd like to do 10 shows of youth empowerment for the youth to submit a 5-minute video of speaking their message of empowerment to the world. And the viewers of the show will vote and choose the winner of the Youth Empowerment Takeover once all the shows have aired. And so there'll be a first, second, and third place winner. And this is the opportunity to give the youth some hope, let those youth show their gifts, their talents, be able to produce a show, to just do something different. And so I'm excited about that. All right, so we have a reflection question. What are some stressors that made you feel fear and anxiety as a child? I encourage you to journal that, to take some time and really think about that, because remember I mentioned that a lot of these stressors, a lot of these fears and anxieties that we may be experiencing actually began in childhood. And so if we take the time to go back and think about those things, they can help us pinpoint why we are having some of the emotions, some of the fears and anxieties that we may be experiencing as adults. There's some practical tools to cope with anxiety. Listen to songs that bring you peace. That's been one that has really helped me out. Maybe make you a playlist of songs that help bring peace. That'll be one of those tools that you can use. A food log is a practical tool to cope with anxiety. Why? Because there are certain foods and beverages that we eat and drink that may make us sensitive to have those symptoms of anxiety. So some of the symptoms of anxiety would be high blood pressure, be increased heart rate, maybe a pumping sensation in your chest. That would be because of the heart rate is increased. But I don't know if you ever heard of caffeine sensitivity. That is a real thing. It is the example that came to my mind. And so some people, you may have a sensitivity to caffeine. And so that means that after you drink caffeine, within 15 to 30 minutes or so, you may notice that you start to feel hot and flushed, may start to feel confused. You may start to feel increased heart rate. You may start to feel thumping, like the increased thumping in your chest. And those are all symptoms of caffeine sensitivity. And so that can make you feel like you're having a panic attack, or that you have anxiety, especially if you drink caffeine on a consistent basis, or you're having it in your food that contains caffeine. That if you're doing that multiple times a day, that can actually make you feel as if you're having panic attacks and that you have anxiety, when you actually don't. You just need to change your food. Make sure your basic physical needs have been met. So that's going to be food, water, sleep. When those things are out of alignment, then that can make you feel like you have anxiety. Dehydration is one of those other things that can make your heart rate be increased, because your body's having to work harder to circulate what fluids you do have in your body to try to help compensate for what you don't have. And so that can make you feel like you have an increased heart rate, jittery, all of those symptoms that can mimic anxiety. And so just making sure that those basic things are taken care of in your life can help. Journaling is just so therapeutic. So some of the points that you can focus on as you journal would be, what makes me feel afraid? Is this a real or imagined fear? And what about this situation makes me feel afraid? Those are 3 points that you can start to journal on. And also therapy. I love therapy. Therapy is designed to help you get to the roots. You're there with a professional. It may take some time to find the right person for you, but you have a person who is there. They've been trained, educated. They're constantly reading and learning new things um, to help their clients and the people that they serve. It's just that scheduled time that is just for you. There's nobody but you and your therapist. It's your time. It's your session. You pay for it. Just talk openly and get down to the bottom of some things. And then last but not least, prayer. Prayer. You have a relationship with God, you just ask God, God, why am I anxious? He will tell you. He'll tell you exactly what the root cause of anxiety that you're feeling, and even give you a plan for your life. And so you can decide that there's nothing greater than God. No fear, no anxiety, nothing that's greater than God in your life. Then God will show you the people you need to talk to, the programs you need to be involved in to help get you to that place where anxiety is not ruling you. All right, so I want to take this opportunity to invite you to pre-order your copies of Trapped Behind Enemy Lines in My Mind and Good Grief. I am a best-selling co-author of both of these amazing books. Good Grief, 14 inspiring stories of finding the goodness in grief. There are multiple stories in there, tools, tips, different scenarios of loss, not just the loss of person, but just these different losses we feel in life, just helping give those tools and tips for you on your grieving journey. And then Trapped Behind Enemy Lines in My Mind is for those who may have struggled with a mental illness, maybe thoughts, feelings, emotions, anything that has experiences that have made you feel like you are trapped in your mind and you can't get out. And so there are also tools, tips, encouragement in that book to help you in your mental health wellness as well. And so pre-order your copies today. Ordering copies of these books for yourself, for your ministry, for your women's groups, for your men's groups. These will help to support the show. And so you can order your copies today, and the Linktree information is there. All right, so what does God say about anxiety? So in Matthew chapter 6, verse 34, this is the Message translation. It says, give your entire attention to what God is doing right now, and don't get worked up about what may or may not happen tomorrow. God will help you deal with whatever hard things come up when the time comes. The anxiety is future focused. It's always focusing on the what if. What if this happens? What if that happens? And so God is literally telling us that he will help us deal with whatever hard things come up when the time comes. When you really start to meditate on that and believe that, then those things that come up from day to day, it's just you have that faith and you have that confidence that whatever comes up, that God will be right there to help you. So we have some affirmations, some things that we want to say to ourselves that help encourage and affirm that we are taking authority over anxiety. I am choosing to remain focused on the present moment. I am in control of my thoughts. My thoughts do not control me. I am capable of handling whatever challenges I am faced with today. I give myself permission to disconnect from people and places that make me feel anxious. I choose to believe that God will help me, never abandon me, and give me the future I hope for. And then there's a disclaimer. These are the plans God had for your life when he formed you, not the plans you created for you. I don't want you to be getting mad at God for no reason. He didn't promise us that he was going to help us do our own thing. He did promise us that he would help us do those things that are in alignment with those plans that he's had for us, and those things that are in alignment with his heart. And so our prayer is, Father, we are sorry for making anxiety greater than you. Please forgive us. We choose to believe that you are greater than anything we can ever face in life. Heal us from all the traumatic experiences that made us feel anxious and afraid. Teach us how to rest in you and live free from anxiety. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. If you are being educated and empowered by this show, I want to invite you to become a one-time or monthly sponsor of the show. And the information is listed there. There's the information to my link tree. And if you have more questions or concerns, you can email me at tiara@mothersmentalhealthmovement.com. Thank you so much for joining me today for our episode about anxiety. I hope that you learned something that is valuable for you and your life, your mental health journey, as it pertains to anxiety. And so, hey, let me know. Reach out to me on social media. Let me know what your favorite part about the show was. If there's anything you want to add, don't forget to join the community so that we can talk more about these subjects, the private Facebook community, where we can respectfully talk about some of those things that, hey, we don't get to talk about on the show because it's, we got time constraints. We're building a community, and if there's something that you have that can help us, we can help each other, then let's share it. Sharing is caring. All right, so thank you so much. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of Restore Hearts TV.
Life is a journey, and there are many moments. Some moments are smooth. You flow through them effortlessly. There are other moments when life's challenges interrupt your momentum, yet you find the strength to get back on track, to keep moving. So even if you have to crawl to make it there, do it, because victory belongs to you. You are equipped to handle every part of the journey. You were created to overcome this. Don't give up. I love you.